Hello and welcome to week 3 of the Dwell Art Journaling series. This week we're going to bring things together in a journal spread, but first a few words on how I came to this week's theme based on our Philippians verse, which you can find the full verse in the description below the video. As we know, a variety of translations of Philippians 4:8 use the verb think, and although I took the translation of dwell for the name of this series, I can't help but revert to the word think, and another memorable verse about thinking. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." I think creativity is a great way to renew your mind. As I mentioned before, when you are freely creating, it can truly help you shed all the junky, worldly thoughts and get to a clearer, more peaceful state of mind. God gave us free will. And although that got humans into the original trouble way back when and still causes plenty of havoc today, we can use that freedom to choose to think on Jesus and the good things of verses like Philippians 4:8. And the more we choose to think on something, the more powerful it becomes in our lives. I don't know if you've heard the story of the two wolves, but the saying goes, "The wolf you feed is the one that grows." Creativity is a way to feed the good things. Set your mind and heart in handiwork on these words of God and dwell there. And not only will you experience what Philippians 4:9 says, the peace of God will be with you, but you will begin to see the fruit of this good thinking in your life. As I was preparing for this series, after having decided to focus on Philippians 4:8, my daily reading included Galatians. And as I read through the fruit of the Spirit verses, I thought, man, these are so good too. So I've chosen to include them today. Galatians 5:22-23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are other good things of God's word that we can think on or dwell on as we create and in those moments when we're trying to renew our minds." In the theme of thinking, this week's concept or theme is thought garden. You can create this project in your journal or on a loose sheet of paper. And I have a couple of ideas and a couple of ways you can go about it. 2 different versions, basically, that you can do and you can choose. I'm going to try to show both. So I have a couple of examples of the first one. This one I did on a loose sheet of paper. And this gives the general idea. Think on those things. Putting flowers in the words into her mind, into her thought garden. I also did one in my journal kind of as a practice, and the one that I worked on in the live session. Think on these things. The other one that we're going to do, I don't have an example made yet, except for this one, which I did during an awesome series called Encounters in Color. This was based off somebody's lesson, but it's very similar to the idea that we're going for here. It's kind of making a garden and putting the things that we are to think about from this verse into the garden. So I wanted to start, kind of get things going. So I put just some plain collage down, neutral collage, I should say, down on my page. But before we kind of get started, I wanted to just go over the types of flowers that you could use. So you could simply, if you have a gardening magazine available, you could use a gardening magazine. And you could just cut out some flowers. I have some right here that I just kind of cut out all the flowers, that were kind of awesome and singular. Another option is we have the printouts. You can use printouts for this. You can just cut out these flowers, which is kind of what I did here. And I also had this other thing that I provided, but this is just some free clip art, basically, that I just printed all out onto a sheet so I could cut it out, and then you can see that I used those in there. I just really liked the kind of the contrast and the way it kind of breaks everything up. Another thing you can do is you can paint your own flowers. These are just some that I did on some book pages, and I'll kind of give a little example of that. And the last way that you can do, which I'm going to start with kind of here, I think, so that we can get some pieces ready. Oh, one other way. Sorry, before I do that. If you have scrapbook paper with flowers on it, you can cut the flowers out. That's actually how I did this one. So I just cut the flowers out of the scrapbook paper. So they're already made for you. So those are a couple of great options for that. Or you can take some of your scrapbook papers that you've been making, and you can either draw on the front side or the back side. I'm just going to do it on the front side. And just, you know, you can either cut the whole flower out. This is going to be kind of big for my project, but that's okay. Or you can just, you know, make petal shapes like that. I just realized here, now you can actually see it. You can just make petal shapes or the whole flower. And the cool thing about this is, so say I use this whole flower. Just cut it out. And some of it doesn't really have to be perfect when you cut it out because you're going to overlap quite a bit. And this is like a very funky flower because I'm going fast, but that's okay. So you have your flower, and then you can take, you know, another color like this one and do a center. Do the center of your flower. And I think this is a great option because it really incorporates all the things we've been doing the last couple weeks. Like that. And then you can take, if you have any sort of pen, like a paint marker or a crayon or anything that you think would show up over top of that. This is a Posca pen, which is a paint marker. You know, you can make marks like this on there. Obviously use a lighter color. You could use black. So that's kind of one make. And then I want to show you how easy, for example, something like this is. I think I might have used watercolor for those, but that's okay. You do not need watercolor for it. You can use, so these are my acrylics that I've been using this whole time. You want to just get your brush a little bit wet, and it will give it more of a kind of watercolor-y look. Smudge it all in there. You know, just make whatever shape strikes your fancy. You can just play. And it's actually good, you know, to start with your painting your flowers that you're going to cut out, because then they can dry while you're working on your first layers in your journal. And again, you could also combine them. So I've got this one here. I could do another little center from my collage papers. Like that. And again, once it dries, you can make on it. Make sure, if you're using a paint marker or other kinds of things to write on your flowers, make sure they're fully dry, because otherwise they're going to clog up your, actually I'll cut that one out. They will clog up your pens and your markers if you don't let your paint dry first. There are very few that will not clog up. Unless you're using like a water soluble pencil, then it will just make marks, you know, within the wet. And each flower doesn't have to be perfect. None of them do, because you're going to overlap them and you're going to layer them up, and it's just going to create just a really pretty effect. Okay, so there's some examples. So I'm going to pull my journal back over here. And let's see, I'm going to start, I guess, with my face page. So as you can see, I've kind of laid out some neutral collage. And like on my other page that I showed you back here, I'm just going to smudge some paint on, get some background going. I'm just going to use my finger. All of these are very similar to the techniques that we used, or they're not similar, they are the same to the things that I've been doing all along on the tags, on my backgrounds, on my journal pages, because this is my process. Again, I'm sharing my process, and you can take from it the parts that you like and make them your own. Use some of this that I got here. Just smudge it around, making a background. Now, let me see. Dropping my stuff over here. Don't worry about it. The noise. Just dropped my heat gun. Maybe you didn't even hear it. I don't know what the microphone picks up. So I'm going to I'm using a lot of the same things that I've used all along, just to kind of, I don't care if things are cohesive, but apparently that's what I'm leaning towards. To the same things every week. So I'm just going to use a stencil, make some more marks on here. More texture in the background. And then I guess I will use a stencil as well. Or I mean a stamp. Use this one that I just made recently, which is a very similar shape to the stencil I just used, but it just adds another layer of dimension there. So then we have that, like that. And I was thinking, and I know that for some people doing a face might be kind of scary, but I promise you that it does not have to be complicated. You don't have to, you know, shade it and make it lots of different colors. So I'm just gonna sketch a face. So it's basically like an oval type egg shape. And then pull it just neck and shoulders. Another thing you could do is you could cut a face out of a magazine and put it on there, and then just make the hair part on top of that magazine. I'm just gonna keep it super simple. I'm probably gonna end up with a blue face because I'm not really letting this dry properly, but that's okay. So you can make the faces detailed or as simple as you please. And it can be any color you want to. Someone at the class last week, I think she did kind of like a cutout of, she just cut paper out, which is a perfect way to do it as well. She cut her shape out. And I think it was purple and I liked it. I loved her simple face and her, you know, she made it work for her and I love that. So for now, I'm just going to kind of leave this all blank down here, but I might add a little bit of apparel in there later on. So yeah, just get your basic shape like that. She has got a very small chin and a very big neck. That's okay. All right. And then I'm going to just use some of these flowers that I already had made, and some of these black and white flowers that I cut out, and I'm just gonna start, I kind of want that one to be at the top, at the front. I'm just gonna glue them down, start gluing them down. So you can add ears if you want, but, which I did on this one, but it's not really necessary. I mean, the important part is the words and the thinking. So actually, I think I'm going to use like maybe some of these ones that I cut out of the magazine as well. So you're basically just making a big, it can be kind of crazy, headdress here. A place to nestle all your thoughts that you're thinking on. From our verse, from both verses, from Philippians and the Galatians verse as well, all of these good things in the Bible that God has given us to think about. Think about those things as you're gluing, as you're painting. And you can obviously make this as big or as small as you like. These flowers are all pretty big, so it's filling in the space quite quickly, which is not a bad thing. I actually kind of wish I hadn't put that one there, because I want to put the big purple one there on top. So we're going to scoot you up here. And some of these are not glued down all the way. That's also okay, because it kind of, I mean, they'll flatten quite a bit after you've closed your journals a few times, but if they pop up, it kind of gives it a little something extra. I like how these are drawing into this purple that I've been using, or this magenta that I've been using. It's okay if things hang over. I can either cut it off or just fix that later. But I like it kind of when things hang off the page a little bit. I think it makes it a little nicer, a little more, it just looks nicer to the eye, to me. And like this, you can do something as simple as just like that. And I know I want this one to go here somewhere. It's kind of cover up her face a lot. How did I have that before? I do not know. That should be good. So I wanted to I'm not doing it the same way. I keep looking at it and trying it again differently. It's okay. Super simple swip. And I found that like it's nice to just have all your stuff cut before you get started, and then you can just kind of play with all the different pieces that you have and just decide what you like where. I'm going pretty quick on this. I might take more time if I was working on it just solo here, not making video, but so of course you can take as little or as much time as you want. All right, I think that I'm going to stick with that for right now. I say that and then I grab another flower. All right, and then I have my words that that I've had available that I just printed out from my computer. But again, you can handwrite them. You could stamp them if you have letter stamps. It's totally up to you. Could cut them out of magazines. I don't know if you'd be able to find all of them, but you can also make them. Just cut letters and make them. You also don't have, I mean, it's a thought garden, which is why I put the thoughts into the hair part, but you could also just list them to the side. So on my examples, I kind of just wrote, think on these things to the side, because I think that's a good reminder and part of the kind of the theme. Okay. You can also do leaves. I did not do any leaves on this one. I did on my other one here. I'll show you real quick. This one I just kind of tuck some leaves in. That also adds a little something extra, which I like, but I'm not going to cut any out right now. All right, and then I just kind of added my words in here. Wherever, however they fit. they can stick out a little bit. They don't have to like be all in the flowers. You honestly can just leave your face blank if you don't want to try to make one. But if you would like to put a face on it, I'll do a very quick and simple face lesson. So if your head is this big, your eyes are halfway down. I am going to do closed eyes, just much easier. Plus I just like it in the context of thinking and dwelling and meditating. And then halfway here, you've got your nose. And this does not have to be completely accurate. I am going very quickly. And then generally halfway, I just fit it in. My chin is so small on this. So we're just gonna make it work. I might extend her. I think her eye is a little bit big, so that's part of it. Generally it should be an eye with an eye width between an eye and then an eye width on the edges, but again, and don't forget eyebrows. Makes it look a little bit better. So I might come back after and, whoops, just made her chin very strangely, even more strangely shaped, and kind of fill that in. You can also, you know, color it in. Make her lips the same color as like this, which I think I'll do real quick. Not perfection, just, you know, adding some color. Whoops. Like, don't get hung up on it. And then if you want, you can go over your lines with a black pen or whatever. Give her some eyelashes. Oops. It makes it look kind of funny on that one. I don't know what I did differently here, but that's okay. I think it's because there's such a big blank spot right there. The one thing I try not to do, but I seem to do a lot, is scribble too much under her chin, and then she kind of looks like she has a beard. But that's okay. I'll try not to do that today too much. So I'm just going to cut my edges off here. My overflowing flowers. And then let's think. I might just, I don't know if it's really going to show up very well. Do that. And you can go back in and do even more mark making on this if you want. So let's see. Another white, this is a white Posca pen. Just kind of, I love dots. I think I've said that before. When this works. Or dashes are also a fun one, like little tick marks. I cannot find my black. I can't find the one I'm looking for. There it is. So like, And then you can either, actually, I think I'll use that black marker for, so you can either, you could, I'm going to handwrite, think on these things right here. You could do it on her shoulder, kind of like I did here, or like on this one, I stamped it. I didn't really like the black, it blended in too much because my background was too dark, but, so I tried to highlight it a little with the white, but you could just, you know, do something different. So yeah, just kind of use what you have. And you could do cursive, you could do, you know, whatever strikes your fancy. I'm just going to kind of. And then just kind of pull that in a little bit more. Actually, I have, this is just because it's, I just wanna. I'm going to do a little white with this. I use this stencil some. The other thing I guess you could do before I do that, you could put, you know, you could put some flowers like near it. I'm just going to do this little stencil. I use this quite a bit on my, when I was making collage papers in the first week. I'm just going to add some of these in here. And of course they're pink because I did not clean my little foamy thing here. It is what it is. And then I'll add a little bit of that over here to keep things together. Just a little finishing something. And as you can see, my flowers are all pulling up. That's fine. Just glue them back down. Okay. If I could find my glue stick, there it is. All right, so there's an example. A thought garden. I'm just gonna kind of go over this. A thought garden on a figure's head. Thinking on these things. And I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, I'm gonna stick a little piece of deli paper in here so that I can show you the garden example. But I guess here is a look at our face. Think on these things.